Hi guys, it seems we need to talk about Mike. Now, many of you have been asking whether I'm still speaking with him, whether I'm upset with him, or whether in fact we're going to continue as friends in the future. Is he my favourite person right now? Well, probably not.
After years, Edd China finally admits what we all suspected was happening. One day, he was calmly showing millions how to rebuild a suspension, and the next he was gone, announcing his exit from Wheeler Dealers, with no warning and admitting he had recently lost nearly $2 million, chasing the kind of engineering projects TV networks kept shutting down. Fans instantly knew something wasn't right. Edd wasn't just a host, he was the soul of the show. His departure didn't feel like a decision, it felt like a breaking point. And now he is rebuilding his life on his terms, running his own workshop and creating the content he was never allowed to make on TV. To understand why everything unraveled, we have to go back to where the story truly began. It all began long before contracts, networks, and the pressure that would eventually tear everything apart. Back in the early days, Wheeler Dealers was nothing more than two passionate car guys sharing a garage and a simple idea: fix up old machines and show people the real process, step by step. Mike Brewer had the hustle, the charm, and the eye for a bargain. He could talk a seller down without ever sounding pushy, turning negotiation into entertainment. But the moment Edd China stepped into the picture, the show transformed into something no one expected. Edd wasn't flashy, loud, or trying to steal the spotlight. He was calm, almost understated, but the kind of person whose presence filled the room without ever needing to raise his voice. At 6 feet 7 inches, with a mind that worked like a blueprint, he turned complicated engineering into something anyone could understand. His workshop wasn't just a set, it was a classroom disguised as a garage. Every weld, every diagnostic check, every clever workaround became a lesson viewers didn't even realize they were learning. And that's why this partnership worked. Mike brought the energy, Edd brought the mastery. Together, they created a balance that felt real. No gimmicks, no shortcuts, no stage drama, just two opposites working toward the same goal and letting the audience sit right there with them. It wasn't just a car show. It was comfort, inspiration, and curiosity wrapped into one smooth flow. But while the chemistry on screen looked effortless, the machinery behind the scenes was slowly getting more complicated. Because as the show grew, as the audience expanded across the world, something else began to rise with it: pressure. The kind of pressure that tests partnerships, bends rules, and starts pushing people in directions they never expected. And that's where the first cracks quietly appeared, even if nobody recognized them at the time. The moment Wheeler Dealers exploded in popularity, everything around it began to shift. What started as a small, tight-knit UK production suddenly found itself attracting attention from bigger networks, bigger markets, and bigger expectations. And with the move to America, those expectations turned into a wave that nobody, not even Edd, was prepared for. The US market meant more eyes, more advertisers, and more money on the table. But it also meant more executives stepping into the garage, quietly adjusting the formula that made the show special. Bigger sets replaced the old workshop feel. Meetings became longer. Deadlines became tighter. What once felt like a passion project now started resembling a corporate machine that had to produce, polish, and deliver non-stop. The changes were subtle at first. A few minutes shaved off Edd repair segments. More emphasis on the buying and selling moments. Faster pacing to make room for commercial breaks. But to Edd, those little edits were warnings. The heart of the show, the slow, detailed, educational repairs, was being trimmed piece by piece. And the more the season went on, the more those trims turned into cuts. Fans began noticing too. Comment sections weren't asking about cars, they were asking where the in-depth breakdowns had gone. The very thing that made Wheeler Dealers stand out in a crowded genre was slipping away. But behind the scenes, the message was clear. Streamline, speed it up, make it more entertainment-friendly. To the network, it was simple business. To Edd, it was the beginning of something he had always feared, the moment when authenticity gets sacrificed for ratings. And the next proposed change, the one that crossed the line completely, would put Edd in a position where he had to choose between staying loyal to the show or staying loyal to himself. The pressure had been building for years, but the breaking point came when the network finally revealed what they wanted Wheeler Dealers to become. It wasn't a gentle suggestion or a minor tweak. It was a complete shift in philosophy, one that clashed with everything Edd believed in. Executives pushed for shorter repair segments, fewer technical explanations, and a faster, punchier format that would fit neatly around ads and appeal to casual viewers. But the part that hit Edd hardest wasn't the trimming. It was the idea of outsourcing. For a show built on real hands-on work, outsourcing repairs wasn't just a creative adjustment. It was a threat to the show's integrity. To the network, it meant quicker turnaround and cleaner episodes. To Edd, it meant pretending. It meant putting his name on work he didn't actually do, glossing over the details, and turning the mechanical process into a montage. And that was the one line he refused to cross. Because Wheeler Dealers wasn't about flipping cars, it was about showing the actual journey, the frustration, the breakthroughs, the clever fixes that made viewers feel smarter with every episode. Cutting that away meant cutting out the soul of the show, the part Edd had spent more than a decade building with purpose and pride. So he tried to push back. He explained that the audience loved the depth, that the repairs were the whole point, that stripping it down would turn the series into every other car show out there. But the more he resisted, the more he realized the decision had already been made. The format was changing with or without him, and that's when Edd faced the truth no one expected. Staying meant becoming someone he wasn't. It meant watering down the work, pretending things were simpler than they were, and letting the show lose the honesty fans trusted him for. Leaving meant losing stability, losing the platform he built, and walking away from the most successful chapter of his life. But Edd chose integrity even though it came with a price far bigger than anyone knew at the time. When Edd finally walked away, fans reacted instantly and loudly. But instead of directing their frustration at the network or the production decisions that pushed him out, a different narrative took over. One that pointed fingers at the only person still standing on screen, Mike Brewer. Forums exploded within hours. Comment sections turned into battlegrounds. People were convinced Mike had been quietly working behind the scenes, trying to protect his position, pushing for a flashier format, or siding with executives who wanted the show modernized. None of it was proven, none of it was confirmed, but in the chaos of speculation, truth didn't matter, emotion did. And Mike became the face of the problem. He tried to defend himself publicly, saying he supported Edd's decision and wished him the best. But the more he talked, the angrier the internet grew. To many fans, Edd represented purity, integrity, and the soul of the show, so someone had to be the villain. Someone had to be blamed for ruining what millions loved. What came next crossed every line. Mike, social media filled with hate. His wife faced harassment. His daughter received threats so frightening that police had to step in. Mike later admitted that someone even told him they wanted him dead. He described those days as some of the darkest of his life, saying, "I had to call the police. Someone said they were going to kill me." Meanwhile, Edd stayed silent, not out of malice, but because he didn't want to fuel the fire. Still, the silence only made things worse. Without Edd publicly clearing the air, rumors grew into full-blown conspiracy theories. The fan base split. One side protected Edd like a hero. The other attacked Mike like he had destroyed the show single-handedly. No emails, no statements, no confirmations. But the damage was already done personally and professionally. Mike walked back into the garage every day carrying a weight he never expected. Edd walked away with his integrity intact, but a storm followed in his shadow. And with the dust barely settling, the show had to make a decision that would define its future. Find someone to replace the irreplaceable. With the fan base divided and emotions running high, the producers faced a brutal reality. Wheeler Dealers couldn't stop. It was a global brand, a machine that had to keep rolling, even if its most beloved mechanic had walked out the door. And that meant someone had to step into a role that no one truly wanted: the person replacing Edd China. Enter Ant Anstead. On paper, Ant looked perfect. He had real mechanical chops, years of hands-on experience, and a natural on-camera presence. He was younger, energetic, and confident without being overwhelming. To the producers, it felt like a clean transition. Put a skilled, charismatic mechanic in the workshop and hope the audience accepts the new face beside Mike. And for a moment, it worked. Episodes flowed smoothly. The chemistry between Ant and Mike felt genuine, and the cars they tackled were impressive. Ant brought speed, efficiency, and a upbeat style that gave the show a fresh spark. His background in restoration and fabrication meant he knew what he was doing and viewers could see it. But the comparisons never stopped. Fans kept saying Ant was too fast, too polished, or not detailed enough. The quiet, step-by-step explanations Edd was known for were replaced by quicker edits and tighter pacing, not because Ant wasn't capable, but because the format had already shifted long before he arrived. The show was no longer the slow, methodical masterclass people fell in love with. It was evolving into something slicker, more broadcast-friendly, and less technical by design. By 2020, Ant stepped away. No controversy, no dramatic statement, just a practical choice. The show's format demands, his personal life, and other TV opportunities pulled him in different directions. And once again, Wheeler Dealers was left searching for someone who could fit into a legacy that was beginning to feel heavier with every season. That's when Mark Elvis Priestley took over, a race team veteran with real engineering pedigree and a genuinely warm personality. Elvis quickly proved he wasn't a placeholder. His knowledge ran deep, his enthusiasm felt honest, and his hands-on experience in motorsports brought a sense of authenticity that fans could respect. But even with Elvis giving solid, thoughtful work at the bench, the same unshakable question echoed through the fanbase. Why doesn't it feel the same anymore? Because it was never just about skills, never just about cars, never just about who could hold the spanner. It was about a dynamic that happened once, unexpectedly, and couldn't be recreated, not by Ant, not by Elvis, not by anyone. And while the show kept moving forward, the man who defined its quiet brilliance was rebuilding his own world, far from TV cameras and on his own terms. While Wheeler Dealers pushed ahead with new faces and a new direction, Edd was quietly doing something far more meaningful, starting over. Not on television, not under a network, and not under anyone else's rules. After leaving the show that defined his career, he didn't chase another TV gig or try to jump into a replacement spotlight. Instead, he went back to the one place where he always felt in control, his own workshop. That's where Workshop Diaries was born. No executives, no time limits, no producers hovering with clipboards. Just Edd, a camera, and pure engineering. From the first episode, fans instantly felt it. This was the Edd they had been missing. Calm, thoughtful, methodical. He wasn't rushing through repairs or cutting corners to fit a timeline. He was taking viewers deep inside the process, showing every bolt, every headache, every clever workaround. The kind of detail that once made Wheeler Dealers special was finally back, exactly the way he always intended, and viewers showed up fast. His subscriber count jumped. Comments flooded in from fans who said it felt like coming home. Others said they hadn't watched Wheeler Dealers since he left, but they were watching everything he uploaded. For the first time in years, Edd was free. He didn't need network approval to experiment with electric conversions, rebuild vintage gearboxes, revive old Land Rovers, or dive into futuristic engineering projects. He could explain why something mattered, not just show the result. But even with the success, there was a cost most people didn't know about. Edd revealed that he had recently lost nearly $2 million investing in projects he believed in, builds and innovations he wanted to bring to life, but couldn't push through the television system. Those losses would have crushed most people, but instead of walking away, he doubled down. He redirected that energy into content he controlled completely, turning those financial hits into motivation rather than defeat. And that's exactly why Workshop Diaries feels different. It isn't built for ratings, it isn't chasing trends. It's built from passion, patience, and a refusal to dilute the craft he loves. Edd is finally doing the kind of engineering he was once told to shorten, simplify, or cut for time. Now, if something takes 40 minutes to explain, he explains it. If it takes 4 hours to rebuild, he shows it. This was never about fame. This was about identity. And for the first time since walking away from Wheeler Dealers, Edd looked genuinely at peace, rebuilding not just machines, but the freedom he almost lost. Even as Edd found his rhythm again and built a loyal audience around Workshop Diaries, one question kept echoing louder and louder across the entire fanbase. Will Edd China and Mike Brewer ever reunite? It didn't matter how many years passed, how many new seasons were released, or how many co-hosts stepped into the workshop, people still felt like the story wasn't finished. Because for millions of viewers, Wheeler Dealers was never just a show about flipping cars. It was a bond, a balance. Two completely different personalities who somehow created something timeless. And when that bond snapped, it left a gap the audience couldn't ignore. Ant brought charm. Elvis brought warmth. But the original chemistry? That was lightning in a bottle, the kind you only get once. And that's why the reunion talk never went away. Every time Edd uploaded a new Workshop Diaries episode, comments appeared instantly. Will you and Mike ever talk again? Is a one-off special possible? Please rebuild one car together. Just one. Every interview Mike did came with the same hopeful question. Would you work with Edd again? There was always hesitation in their answers, always silence where people hoped for closure. Neither man attacked the other. Neither blamed the other. Neither revealed private details. They simply avoided it. And that silence is what kept the speculation alive. Some fans believe time heals everything. Others think the damage ran deeper than anyone knows. And many still feel that only Edd and Mike together, even for a single episode, could bring back the feeling the show lost the day he walked out. But the truth is this: both of them chose different roads, yet both roads lead back to the same legacy. Mike kept the brand alive with new partners, new builds, and non-stop hustle. Edd built something authentic, personal, and completely free. Two paths, one history, and a fan base that still hopes those paths might cross again, not for ratings, not for drama, but for the closure their story never got. Because Wheeler Dealers wasn't just about restoring cars, it was about restoring trust, passion, and the connection between two men who changed automotive television forever. If you've watched this far, you're the reason videos like this exist, and I want to hear from you. Do you think Wheeler Dealers ever recovered after Edd walked away, or was that the moment the show lost its magic for good? Drop your thoughts below. And before you go, make sure you subscribe, share, and comment, because the next story we're breaking down is even more unbelievable than this one. Hit that like button, turn on notifications, and stick around. The truth behind your favorite shows is only getting deeper from here.